though.
Okay. And then we'll go into that. Cool.
Yep, then we'll go into the football stuff,
And then we'll go into stories.
personal stories.
But don't forget birthdays. We have to make sure we get
give it a
birthdays.
second or two. We're streaming, but we're going to give it a second.
All right.
Okay.
We got.
Cool.
Don't forget the birthday shout-outs.
Yes.
I'll take care of birthday shout-outs.
Okay, you'll do the birthday shout-outs.
All right.
We can open the new year and the new decade with birthday shout-outs.
All righty.
Well, you want a good 30 seconds or a minute to notify everyone.
Good morning, Frisco, Texas.
Good morning. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
I just think George Stephanopoulos and that crew and I say that.
I don't watch them, so
I
it
don't,
doesn't
but
impact me at
it's-
all.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Saturday morning. That means those two great guys full of information you don't want to miss. A veteran show for all veterans. Welcome, Major Andrew White, retired, and Marine helicopter pilot Chuck Wright.
Hey,
Yeah.
love that. Happy New Year. Happy new decade.
Outstanding. Hoorah. And welcome everyone joining us today for Season Dose.
Is this season dose?
This is Season Dose 2.
So a new decade and a new season.
New season of
all
Kilroy's
kinds of stuff
Conversation.
going on.
Again, no need to adjust your channels and all that, because, yes, we do look this way. Our New Year's resolution is hopefully to get better looking over the course of the year. But I'm pretty much giving up on that.
I would never make that New Year's resolution.
I try.
It's a fail.
It's like losing weight. You know, you always say you're going to go to the gym and get healthier. It's already the 8th. We're giving up on that resolution.
You
so-
might be giving up on that.
Oh, you're staying on it.
I'm down 25 pounds since the last time I went to see my
Hoo-ah.
doctor.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Good job.
That
Good
was
job.
That was a nice piece of December news.
I'm just happy I've maintained. I haven't gained. Actually, I lost a little, not much.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your wife was still with you.
Yeah, well, hey,
you
you
kinda
know,
maintained. Sorry about
I
that.
maintained that too. Thank God. You know, she's still sleeping right now. I don't think she gets up this early in the morning on a Saturday to.
Yeah, it's
catch a
kind of
show.
like the entire rest of your family. Weren't we supposed to have one of your kids doing our production?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Oh,
don't. They don't
you know,
get
that-
up early in
that-
the morning.
That goes on.
Yep. So, well, anyways, new year, lots of great new stuff going on. But before we get too far in the year, I think it's appropriate. We've got some friends of the show, friends of ours,
Big time friends.
you know, that we need to make sure we give some birthday shout outs. So I'm going to start off with my neighbor, our friend, a all-around great. In fact, I really have yet to meet anyone that has a negative comment about him, although I'm sure there's probably some really funny stories out there because I've been around him to hear some of his stories. We got to give a big shout out to our good friend Mike Brower, who celebrated his birthday yesterday.
Yep.
You know, Mike, if you're listening to the show, happy birthday. Then, moving on, I got to give a good shout out to one of my great friends we met over in Iraq, in Baghdad.
Excuse me.
This guy he's a Marine, and every
Gotta be a
time
great
you
guy.
meet him, you know, you got to understand, I won't go into too much detail, but he took an injury to one of his ears. I'm only going to leave it at that because you got to meet him. And every time you talk to him, he tells you a different story of how it happened. And his funniest story that I've ever heard him tell us is he said, yep, I was in Bangkok and we were visiting a brothel over there and the girl got excited. That's what happened to his ear. But anyways, you got to be around. Funny story.
I'd have gone in a different direction with that story, but the
Trust me, when you meet
Thai
him,
brothels are amazing.
yeah, he
Probably shouldn't say that on the air.
But great guy. Anyways, my good friend Kevin O'Leary, wherever you're out there, buddy, happy birthday. Then we've
Semper Fi,
got
Devil Dog. Happy birthday.
now he's the ultimate devil dog. If you ever meet him, let me tell you, this guy is a hoot. He's a lot of fun to be around with. I can go on and on about the stories about him. Nothing but great stuff. He's just a funny guy to be around. Great sense of humor. Next guy, of course, another good friend to our show, community, everything like that. Colonel J.P. Hogan.
Yeah.
Celebrating the birthday and all that. So
the only guy in town you can look down on. I'm making short jokes. These guys are both vertically challenged, but trust me, J.P. Hogan embodies the word leadership.
Oh,
he absolutely does.
No question about that. He is a giant in that community.
Yep.
And JP, wishing you a super, super happy birthday. And then
Now, has he hit 100? Oh, I'm sorry, that was kind of rude.
well, we can ask him how the Battle of New Orleans went with
there we
Andrew
go.
Jackson. Get a first-hand account. He was a captain back then?
I
maybe?
think he was just a lieutenant.
Just a lieutenant.
Yeah.
Promotable. So, JP, happy birthday to you. Although he could probably tell us a whole lot about the Battle of New Orleans.
Yes, he probably could.
And if not him, his good friend Colonel Antal could. Both of them.
Colonel John Antal. I still have 2 books of his. I have not gotten autographed yet. So, John Antal, you still owe me a date at the gun range and then lunch for some book signing.
Yep. And speaking of leadership, this guy definitely embodies leadership as well. Great friend to the veteran community. Just an all-around great guy, Nate Boyer.
Nate Boyer, my friend Nate. Nate Boyer, we are trying to get as a guest on the show, and I get to tell the Nate Boyer story because some of those who know me know that I have been a diehard Texas football fan pretty much my entire life. First football game I ever watched was the Great Shootout in 1969. Yes, I was very young, and yes, I watched it on a black and white TV. I have been hooked ever since. My dad and I were in a long family of Aggies, and we were the long. Yeah. Oh, well, a lot of my family, and we'll tell this story later because Uncle Milton was actually on Iwo Jima as a Marine, but they were. They had a peanut ranch, peanut farm, They grew peanuts. They grew watermelons.
Jimmy Carter
down in South Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, and they liked their beer, which Jimmy didn't. But and obviously they all went to A&M. And
sure.
Shout out to my cousin Jake. He's a Marine. He's getting ready to retire. I'm trying to remember where he is now. Last I heard, he was a special Tampa. What is it?
For McDill.
Yeah. So, Nate Boyer, just tell this story right quick. Mac Brown is with several other coaches, and he is touring Afghanistan, and he meets Nate Boyer. And he's talking to Nate Boyer, and Nate was a Special Forces guy. He was a Green Beret. And Mac says, well, you come down to Texas when you get out, and Nate was actually a reservist as well.
That I did not know.
Yeah, he was a reservist, and I know that because he would time his training to not interfere with football practice, but he wound up becoming the long snapper for the Texas Longhorns.
That I didn't know.
And then he got a tryout with Seattle, and he was up in Seattle for a while, and Pete Carroll loved him, and I just think the world of Pete Carroll. I know some personal things about him, that he has done some things for people that I know, and incredible guy. But one of the reasons we wanted to get Nate on the show, not only has he already made a fabulous contribution to society, he does think I'm a little bit of a stalker, but that's a whole other story.
I can't imagine that.
But Nate has been doing some really interesting things, and when Colin Kaepernick first started his nonsense, in classic leadership, Nate went to him and tried to get him to stop. And what spun out of it was him kneeling. But let's be honest, Kaepernick didn't do anything. And you go back and look at his history. He had never done anything outside of his own little football plan, and that's fine. He doesn't have to.
Right.
But until he got demoted to second string, he needed to do something to go, look at me. And his girlfriend is an avowed Marxist. I can't believe she's a TV show in America. She's an avowed Marxist who hates America. And I'm like, if you hate America that bad, leave. Go live in Marxist utopia. My God, why don't you go live in Cuba and see what it's really like there? Marxism sucks. It absolutely sucks. And we just said we're not going political on the show, but it's one of the things that really bothered me is that here's Kaepernick, who is a child of white privilege. His black father left his white mother, deserted him, She married a very rich white guy. I mean, we can say it. He was white, and this is what he supposedly hates. He is a child of white privilege, just like Obama. The irony of all of this, and you know what? And let me stop here, and let me talk about being a veteran, and we'll jump back to Nate real fast before we move on. See, I grew up as an Air Force brat, and we've talked about that on the show before. And then I spent years, my formative years, either trying to get into the Marine Corps in the platoon leaders class, going to flight school, serving in the Marine Corps, deploying around the world. Trust me, I've seen real poverty. We have first world problems in this nation. The biggest problem our poor people have is diabetes and heart condition from being overweight. We don't know what poverty is in this country. And I don't mean that. I know there are people who are suffering.
And I know exactly where you're going with that because, I've been down in Central America in some countries where they've got 4 generations living in a house smaller than this studio room.
House?
Yeah.
These are
or
cardboard.
shanty.
Shanties made out of cardboard.
Exactly. So, in time over in the Middle East, I've seen real poverty.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
real poverty at a scale.
And to wrap this all up, they try to say, oh, well, it's not about the anthem. It's not about the flag. Then why are you kneeling during the anthem? Why don't you do what the Dallas Cowboys did? Kneel as a team immediately afterward to show solidarity with the movement. But at the same time, don't insult every veteran, every family member where those red stripes stand for blood. Now, they may not officially stand for blood, but that's what we see. And it's, you know what, if we were going to end this political correct nonsense, oh my Lord, I'm starting the year on a rant. Why is it okay for you to offend me with nonsense, factually incorrect nonsense, but I can't be offended that you insult our flag? Mind-boggling.
Exactly.
Anyway, and this is actually a good lead-in to finish up on Nate because you had mentioned something, and I want to talk about that. Nate Boyer has done a lot of work in this area, continues to do a lot of work in this area. He is trying to make a difference. So the 4 individuals we're doing birthday shout-outs to today are 4 individuals who aren't just sitting around complaining on Facebook. In fact, it's hard to find Nate making a post unless it's a post about how to get things fixed. The same for JP. The same for your Marine buddy.
Yeah.
And very much the same for my boy Mike Brower. I almost call him Mike Boyer. That could be kind of an interesting flip. But these are guys who make a difference, and that's one of the reasons we admire them so much. So, sorry, not sorry, as Jake Schick would say for my going off on my rant.
Hey, that's all right. That's what makes America great, and that's what we all fought for.
Absolutely. We all get to have an opinion, and trust me, if you want to cancel me, bring it on. I'm really good at this stuff. But you mentioned something, so it's time. Let's start on some knowledge balls before we talk.
Before we go there, there's
okay.
one
Go
quick thing I got to say.
I'm sorry.
I do not know whether he was a veteran or not, but I know he was a big supporter of veterans for sure. Unfortunately, America, and I can say America, we lost, I think, an icon, a titan, Tommy Lasorda.
Oh, yeah.
My father was a diehard Dodger fan, all the way back from when Ebbets Field was in
Brooklyn. How many people don't know? That the Dodgers and the Giants, San Francisco and LA is what most
Polo
of us
Grounds
think
and
about.
Ebbets Field.
They both came from New York. They started and had fame as Nayakas. You can do that accent better, you Yankee. Yeah, we lost Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah.
Tommy Lasorda was an interesting.
He would have been age-wise. He would have definitely served. I would have thought. I'm not sure.
Think.
I haven't done. I didn't.
We
do his
need to
bio.
do an entire show on the great veteran sports figures.
Absolutely.
We have.
That is one. In fact, that's a challenge I want our listeners to do: is do your homework. give us some name. I mean, we know some of the obvious names that were.
Hey, I just got a text. Somebody said there was no homework with this show.
No, but we want your feedback. We want your thoughts of some great veteran athletes, and we know there are tons of them.
Tons and
I mean,
tons
just
of
in our community alone, you
Yeah.
know, Chad Henning and David Robinson, just right here in Texas.
Yep.
You know, so we want to hear them. I, again, didn't get the chance to do the research on Ty Lasorda. Age-wise, would say that he was definitely there, 93, so it is plausible. But regardless of the fact, a titan in American community.
A great American. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Our hearts and thoughts are definitely out there with the Dodger fan base, his family, and all that. But as we were talking earlier, we're going into our knowledge bomb
bombs.
section of the show.
And my apologies. We will have the soundbite next week for that.
That's all right, you
A
know.
little soundbite to announce that knowledge bombs are being dropped.
Well,
This has been an interesting week, by the way, so pay close attention.
That would be a mild statement of interesting the week. I'm going to start with a few little knowledge, but the smaller ones, and we're going to work up to our bigger one that we were talking about prior to the show.
Okay.
One of the first ones, for those of y'all who have not had an opportunity to travel this great nation, highly recommend going out to the western part of South Dakota, which to me, I know JP and I, we'll debate back and forth. Hands down, one of the prettiest, most gorgeous piece of land in America.
Pristine was the word you were
pristine.
holding.
I was like, thank you. You know, coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet. Dunkin' Donuts, as always. You know, we're out there for you. Hopefully, you're out there for us.
One of these days, you guys are going to come around for us.
But you know, out there, Rapid City. I've been to Mount Rushmore, which is definitely it gets you right here. But just out in the distance is the Crazy Horse Mountain. And that is unbelievable. The reason why I go there is because today's the 8th. The last battle that Crazy Horse fought as a warrior against the U.S. cavalry over at Wolf Mountain in the Montana Territory happened on the 8th, 1877. He was captured, brought over to a Indian Reserve prison in Nebraska, where he was later betrayed by a fellow, Native American Indian, and that is how he was actually killed. He was brought over, in chains to go face his charges, and the story was he tried to break away from his chains as a rightful warrior would do, but he was actually stabbed by one of his members because they felt that he was creating, because of his antics and tactics, brought on the war to some of the Native American Indians. So he was actually betrayed.
That brings up an interesting point. I'm going to throw out a plug for
Sure.
a book that doesn't really need to be plugged. We're guessing that a lot of our listeners are history fans. I have
Probably.
really enjoyed the Bill O'Reilly's Killing series book. They have been excellent. They are not necessarily long reads. It's not like picking up a textbook and reading it. It's much more of a narrative. But his most recent one was Killing Sitting Bull. I think it's Killing Sitting Bull.
All right.
But he does go into and touches on Crazy Horse and touches on a whole lot of other things. So recommend that. And then the other book about the American Indians that is just incredible is Empire of the Summer Moon.
I have seen that one. I've heard great reviews of that.
Absolutely outstanding.
But I'm going to go into another history knowledge bomb on this day, which to me, one of, not the, but definitely one of the darkest days of the World War II era was the siege and the Battle of Bataan, which ultimately led to the Bataan Death March, where for our history knowledge, we know that arguably one of the darkest, most horrific, it's right up there with the Holocaust in regards to the treatment and sheer brutality of people. And it kind of shows you how the Japanese treated our prisoners out there. It was a horrific event. And those that survived the Bataan Death March, I was fortunate. I was stationed over at White Sands Missile Range. And every year around the end of March, beginning of April, they do what's called the Bataan Death March marathon through the desert. Now, I know you look at me and say, "Oh, natural runner." Must have some Ethiopian blood in me to be one of those Kenyan runners, Ethiopian runners at the Olympics. Unfortunately, I'm not. But if there's ever a marathon I'm going to run in, or at least attempt to, it's that one. People ask, why that one? The symbolism of that. Not that, but
honoring
the
Bataan Death March. And the interesting thing is a lot of guys will actually march that as opposed to running that. Mm-hmm. But
except for the British Royal Marines, every time they go, those guys are crazy.
Yeah.
They run it.
Yeah.
Full heavy pack. I mean, those guys are nuts.
I trained with those guys. They were pretty
There-
nuts.
there-
And
there's a
actually, believe it or not, back in the day, I was a runner, and I was a pretty good runner relative to the average American. I mean, I'm running with guys that are running sub 5-minute miles, and I'm like going, man, I can't even ride a bike that fast.
Yeah. But that's something. In fact, we should try to do a show out there, go out there, because it's
That
a
would be
cool
very
event.
interesting.
I know when I was out there back in 2002, I want to say there was something like 27 survivors of the Bataan Death March there. Now, granted, fast forward 20 years, I don't know how many are still around, if any.
That's
You know.
a list of gentlemen, not unlike, and I think we have lost the last of the Doolittle Raiders.
Yes, we lost last year. It was Jimmy Doolittle's co-pilot. We lost him in December of 2019. It was just before the year started. He passed away. He was the last of the Raiders. So he passed away. But yeah, I know at least 2 years ago when our good friend Terry Burgess ran in the Bataan Death March.
Oh, I didn't know he done
does
that.
it every year. They had a gentleman who survived the Bataan Death March. He's the honorary starter. He's been doing it for so many years. Granted, he only goes maybe a quarter of a mile. They have a golf cart following him, but nobody starts the race until he hits his.
Gotta love it.
And
Gotta absolutely love it.
much respect for that. But it's a great event to go to. So not sure if he's still with us or not, but if we get a chance, that would be a fun event to go to out in El Paso. JP, if you're listening, I suggest we do some preventive maintenance checks on the RV because I smell a road trip in
I smell a couple of road trips in 2021.
Yeah, so JP, make sure we get those tires checked, oil done, all that good stuff because we may be.
We've got an RV trip talking about this.
Yeah.
We're about to jump.
Well,
into the
actually, we won't be able to
Commander's
do that because remember, where is it going to be?
No. We'll talk about
We'll
that
talk
in a
about
minute.
later.
We're gonna be tailgating.
But before we go to that one, we got
Before
one
we
last
go, we got a great knowledge
bomb. Then this one, I know my good friend over here is going to elaborate more.
He's already forgotten my name.
I didn't forget your name. Written on your shirt, right?
The pirate.
The pirate.
The pirate, yeah. The pilot.
On this day, all right, General Andrew Jackson,
General
Old
Andrew
Hickory,
Jackson. Old Hickory.
entered Nolans.
Actually, the British entered Nolans.
Well, yeah, they're already there, and they took
And,
forces to go there. But why don't you
Andrew kicked them out. No relation to this Andrew. This is a very personal story of mine. My great-grandfather, so I'm 7th generation Texan on his side. I'm 6th generation Texan on the other, on my grandmother's side. So I'm 7th generation on my grandfather's side. He fought in the Battle of New Orleans. Now, the family story, we haven't been able to confirm this, is that he was actually a colonel and referred to as a colonel the rest of his life and commanded a regiment of Creole Indians. But don't quote me on that one. We know he was there, and we know that there was a young man who was there who became a good friend of his, a gentleman by the name of Sam Houston. And Sam Houston was one of Old Hickory's right-hand people. They had fought together. Houston would come to Texas. I don't know if Sam Houston had anything to do with my grandfather coming to Texas. And we thought, when I first heard this, because this has all been in the last 6-7 years that these stories have percolated out, we had never heard these stories. And I asked my mother at one point, and I said, why didn't Dad tell us this? Why didn't Dad take us over to Gonzales, which from where I grew up and went to high school and college was not even an hour away? Because last October we had the start of the Texas Revolution with the legendary Come and Take It and the Come and Take It flag that everybody knows now. We're going to talk more about the Texas Revolution, but the war was already over. The Treaty of Ghent had already been signed, but in those days, information traveled by ship. It wasn't the internet days. They didn't know it, and the British made a lot of tactical mistakes of sailing up, trying to capture the port of New Orleans. And the port of New Orleans was extremely critical. I always ask people, cities like New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, New Orleans. New Orleans was one of the most important cities as our nation was young. Why were they important? It's because they're all port cities. That's how we moved goods around the world. That's how we made money. That's how money makes the whole world go round, and that's how
it does.
we made it happen. So the British came up, foolishly trying to overrun some very heavily defended, well-fortified emplacements, actually south of the city of New Orleans. The battleground was actually well south, but they stopped them before they had a chance. Actually decimated the British Army and sent them packing, which was a fitting end since they burned our capital down. This was all in the War of 1812. And so back to my family, we first started hearing these stories, and we thought it was all a family fishtail. You know, people in bed. Yeah, stories always get better with the telling.
Absolutely.
So we went to the town of Fayetteville, Texas, which is close to Brenham, the home of Bluebell Ice Cream, another Texas icon. There we go. Fayetteville's a little farming community, and we were proven that these stories were true because on the town plaque next to the courthouse, that was the county. It's Fayetteville's also the county seat. Is a plaque, and there are 4 men listed as the founding fathers, and James J. Ross is listed first. James Jeffers Ross. So that's kind of my tie to Texas history. On both sides of my family, we go back. I am a son of the American Revolution. So we have a long, although outside of my little brother and James J. Ross, who was a colonel in the Battle of New Orleans, not necessarily distinguished military history, but we served. And that's one of the things about veterans is we respect the fact that people put the uniform on.
You raised your right hand once. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. So let's flash that. Let's jump into, because I could do stories about this all day, and nobody tuned in to hear this. There we go.
Yep.
Very
Right there.
cool.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, James Jeffers Ross. And I'm trying to remember, there's something about the Cummings family. They wound up being significant in Texas history. I'll have to look that one up. There we go. So, yes, all part of the Meyer expedition. And we used to own a huge chunk of Texas. And
Nice.
It's,
Texas is a big state.
Yeah, it's that piece of property is long gone. We'll tell those stories later.
Didn't hit oil, huh?
No, did not hit oil. There's no oil down there, unfortunately.
We've tried. We've looked.
Yeah. No, but it would have been, and it's still an incredible piece of agricultural property. There is a historical marker marking Ross Prairie. There is a Ross Creek down there. So, and Ross has become a family middle name. My dad was Kenneth Ross. There were 3 generations of Kenneth Ross Wrights. I have a Donald Ross Wright as my little brother. Travis Ross Wright is my son. We actually had a Ross Wright at one point in time. Unfortunately, we lost him the week after he graduated from high school. Kids, pay attention when you're driving. So
Absolutely.
we were spending last year talking about. There we go. Got a little Google stuff. There we go. Founded by James J. Ross.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Town of Fayetteville. So cool.
So now let's go on to
Football.
football. All right.
Football. Okay, so last season we were talking a lot about the Commander-in-Chief trophy, excuse me.
Yep.
That trophy was decided by the Army Air Force game, which was pushed back to December 19th.
Yep.
And was that our last show of last
That
season?
was our last show
So the
of
game
last
obviously had not been played.
Right.
So we didn't know. Oh, that wasn't the trophy. So if you look at the trophy, and here we go. This is the picture I was going to go to. You'll notice on the right-hand side they have the GOAT, and GOAT stands for greatest of all time. That's the Navy side. And then you have the Air Force
Eagle, the
side, which
Falcon.
is the Falcon. And then you've got, we don't have a picture of the Army side, but the Army's is a jackass.
Yep. Hey,
I
that's
kid
all right.
you not. It's a jackass.
There's no denying
There
it.
we go. There's the Army side, and there's the jackass. So, picking on the Army, it's the United States Military Academy.
Hey, when you're number one, you are fair game.
You are fair game.
That's the way we look at it. We're okay with that. We got what you know, as our girl Taylor Swift says, haters are going to hate.
Haters are going to hate. Yes, but they won in an absolutely offensive explosion. The final score was 10-7.
Yeah, it was definitely not a juggernaut of offensive,
No, of offensive football.
but it was a great defensive battle.
Oh, yeah.
And the Army-Navy game also.
Oh, the Army-Navy game
up
was
until what,
spectacular.
like 8 minutes in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter, it was what, 3-0?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it was just, I mean, kids playing their heart out. And I got to tell you, we might kid. The expression is that civilians will talk great about you to your face and insult you behind your back. Military guys,
We'll say it's
we're
straight to
gonna
your
talk crap to your face, but
Absolutely.
by God, we got your back when your back is turned.
no question, and that's what we always say. I mean, we'll bust each other's chops and all that, and those guys on the field, I am sure the trash talking for 60 minutes of play was nonstop during all those games.
The one meme that I forgot to throw into this, one of the things I love when these guys line up, it's the only game where the guys on the field are willing to die for everybody else and the people in the stands.
Yep, and it's awesome. So very proud, Army.
The best of what we have.
We got it. No question about it. I mean, those are great men and women on both sides.
Now, you found some exciting news for the upcoming.
Yes.
Stop.
All right.
We need to explain the RV story. So,
Right.
we were talking about this, and JP, who's the head of the JP and Kathy
Grand Pumbaa.
channel, the Grand Pumbaa. Yeah, I like that. He's
In
the Grand
fact,
Pumbaa.
that should be JP's new call
handle.
sign. The Grand Pumbaa.
Okay. And since JP's not here and I'm helping produce the show today, I will bust chops all the way home on this. You say Grand Poobah. What cartoon is that a reference to?
The Flintstones.
Absolutely. Guess who JP dresses up 9 Halloweens out of 10 like?
Fred
I'm
Fred
guessing
Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone.
Y'all have no
I
idea
love
how
that.
you just hit the nail on the head.
Yabba dabba doo.
I love it.
You know
I love
what?
it.
I've got a Grand Pumbaa hat at the house.
There we go. Very cool.
Wear it next Saturday.
I will
Oh,
bring
there we
it
go.
next
There we
Saturday.
go.
I've got my
Bring
Grand.
it out all of a sudden and see how he reacts.
So we love JP and Kathy. They're the ones who put the network together. But I got to tell you, you want to talk about Beauty and the Beast? Oh, my gosh.
Mardi Gras early this year.
There we go. So anyway, last year, one of the things that came up as we were talking about the lead up to the Commander-in-Chief Trophy is we were going to road trip to the Colorado Springs for the Army Air Force game. But you came up with some
Yes, much better and more economically friendly option for us, but we're still going to take the RV.
You're still going to take the RV out there.
Army and Air Force have signed a contract for the next 2 years, starting this year, that the Army Air Force game will be played at, drum roll please, Is it Globe Life Field or Globe Life Park? I always
Park.
get the park. Globe Life Park in Arlington.
Yep.
And this year, Air Force will be designated. It's a neutral stadium, so the term home team is relevant, you know. Air Force will be.
I anticipate a large contingent from Fort Hood driving.
Oh, yeah, there will definitely be COVID pending. It will be a definite, you know, large contingent of military and whatnot in attendance. But Air Force is the home team this year. Army will be the home team next year. So for the next 2 years, we will be going to
We will
the
be
Air Force.
broadcasting the show as part of our tailgate. So come by, find the RV in the parking lot. We're going to spend the day out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. In
Absolutely.
fact, we may even spend the night out there. We'll start our party on Friday.
Yeah, and the reality is, I think outside of California, the DFW area is probably one of the largest academy alumni meccas, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, probably. I mean, I would imagine the L.A. or San Diego area is probably maybe slightly larger, but we have certainly
We have our share. We have
Yeah.
our
What's the
fair
date?
share.
we will represent.
What's the date for that game?
No,
It's
you would
in
ask us
November
that.
sometime. I don't
Yeah.
know.
We'll
We'll have
look
to
it
look
up.
at it.
We got a little
We
bit
got
of
time
time.
to
I gotta
plan.
put it on my calendar. That's why I just want to make
Yep.
sure. I got,
We
you know,
definitely have time to
But
plan.
what difference does it make? You're going to spill another 32-ounce cup of and destroy your computer anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't
Charles,
think it
our-
won't be coffee at that time, right?
Sippy
It'll be
cups
something
only.
else.
Sippy cups only.
I love it.
I'll just say I like Guinness.
There we go. Yeah,
They
our
could be a
producer, our
sponsor.
producer destroyed his computer and his cell phone with one dump of a 32-ounce cup of water. So he was
Wink,
in
wink,
this-
water.
Yeah, sure. We believe you. We
Yep.
believe you.
That's what we're telling everybody.
That's the
anyways.
inside joke. So anyway, hey, we got one more college football game this season.
Yep.
Monday night, Alabama and Ohio State, and I'm going to take the Ohio State side because I got to be honest.
I knew I liked you.
I thought Clemson was going to run Ohio State
I-
out of the stadium. I thought it was going to be ugly.
You know what? I am probably about 99% with you, and I would have thought, you know, Clemson. I was with you. I thought it was going to be another Clemson-Alabama match. Here's the thing I've learned. As you know, I'm from New England, and I'm a Bill Belichick loving New England Patriot fan, born bred that way.
Front runner.
Oh, I was there during the days when Andre Tippett and all those guys were there. When, you know, the 1-15 seasons, Drew Bledsoe, all that good stuff. We have a saying in New England: never question Belichick. Same thing goes for never question Nick Saban.
Oh, you
Yeah.
already jumped over to Alabama. We were still
No,
talking about Ohio State.
No, I know.
and
Well,
Clemson.
I'm being the counter on this.
Okay.
You cannot count out Nick Saban ever.
No.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Ohio State is a powerhouse of a team, and if they win, 100% rightfully deserved. It's not like they caught them off guard on one day. Ohio State, if they win, they legitimately win.
Yeah.
But you cannot sleep on any Nick Saban coach team
And
ever.
this might be the best Alabama football team. Their offensive line is second to none, although they will be without their Remington Trophy offensive center. He was injured and missed last game and will miss this game.
Right.
Very interesting when he earned the Remington Trophy, he had all of his offensive line teammates come and take the stage with him. What a
Nice.
classy young man. And Devontae Adams is the first wide receiver to win the Heisman Trophy in
20-something years?
at least 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's longer than that. You've got to go back a ways. But another young man who has nothing but class. I was so impressed in every story that I've read, because I didn't know who he was from Adam. You try not to follow Alabama because, gosh, they're just so darn good. But just a flat-out classy guy, first-rate human being. You got to love stories like that. People worry about what's happening to the next generation of America. And I see people like that. I see my son. I see his friends. I see how hard they're willing to work. And I'm like, you know what? we're going to be just fine.
I agree. Well,
Every generation says that about, next generation, last generation, they're just terrible. Nah.
Yep.
We just keep growing and growing. But one of the reasons I want to get this football game over is because the University of Texas, as I mentioned before, has hired their offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, to lead us out of the depths of despair and into the promised land. So I'm calling my shot now. 3 years from now, Texas is in the college football playoffs.
Okay, I'm willing to accept that, as definite possibility. I don't think that's too far out of the realm. They just got to figure out Oklahoma, because that's going to be their one big.
Got to figure out how to beat Oklahoma. Well, now we've got an offensive mind leading the charge that's every bit as talented as Lincoln Riley.
Yep.
Hate to say that about a Boomer Sooner, but Lincoln Riley is just flat out brilliant. Yeah, he's just flat out brilliant. And we have been close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yep.
Doesn't count in football games. So, we need Sark to finish the and my new expression, by the way, is got Sark.
Got Sark.
Kind of like got milk, got Sark.
Got Sark.
Got Sark. That's what I care about.
Well,
Nuclear bombs also.
Yeah,
Horseshoes
it counts a lot in nuclear bombs.
yes.
Yeah, you just got to get within a couple of miles of that sucker, and you'd be good to go.
Yep. Well, what a year, I think I kind of look at this show as a recap year and stuff like that. So, Chuck, got a couple questions for you, right?
Okay.
We ended, the year super high note. Well, actually, before we go that, you want to talk about Brian Fleming's book, who will be our guest pretty soon?
Yeah, he will
And
be
then
our
we'll do
guest
some
on
recap
February 6th. The new book of the month. So far we have done Echo and Ramadi. My friend Scott Hussing, Semper Fi Scott, out there on the West Coast. I doubt if you're up for the show yet.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's already up. And then we did
The Hurricane Within.
Ashley Leppert's Hurricane Within, which was an amazing book.
Great show, by the way.
Oh, yeah, really fun show. She had some great stories to tell. Oh, and by the way, I will share this story. We challenged her on the air to take on the Montana Gold Star Family Monument project, and she has accepted that challenge.
Yes, she
and
did.
has been approved. And after we get the one done for North Texas, which will be right here in Frisco, Texas, we are going to put some effort in to help her, and we'll talk about that as the future goes by.
I see a road trip to Montana.
Yeah, you're going to road trip to Montana for that dedication. And,
JP, I hope you got some new tires on that car.
Yeah,
that RV.
yeah. We're going to be traveling, my man. We're going to be traveling. So, quick backstory. The Gold Star Family Monument Project is part of the Herschel Woody Williams Gold Star Family Foundation. It was started by him. He is the last surviving Marine Medal of Honor recipient from World War II. We have one Army gentleman. They are both in their 90s, and they are still great patriotic Americans doing wonderful things. But we had a project either completed or working in every state in the Union but Montana. As we were interviewing Miss Ashley,
She took up the torch and said, she's got this.
yeah, see, she was calling in from Phoenix, so we thought she lived in Arizona, and she goes, oh, no, I live in Montana. I'm just down here getting warm.
Yep.
And so we were like, hey, have we got a project for you? And she has jumped all over it. She is rallying the entire state behind it. We'll keep you updated on the status of that. We're going to talk in a couple of weeks about the Gold Star family. There we
There you
go.
go.
The Herschel Woody Williams Foundation. I am so proud to be part of this. This is an incredible tribute. And as I mentioned, I'm an Air Force brat. The Gold Star, if you don't know what a Gold Star family is, it is a family that has lost a loved one in military service to our nation. Oddly enough, going all the way back to the American Revolution on both sides of the family, I do not qualify as a Gold Star family member. But very much the plight of these families hit home to me, especially as my brother deployed and I got to meet he was living in Temecula, California. the family that lived across the street. He was a Cobra pilot who was killed. His wife was pregnant at the time. He was killed in Afghanistan. And this is somebody that we'd celebrated Thanksgiving with. Our tradition used to be to go out to Temecula and hang out as family. And we did it one year, and she was over. We got to know her while her husband was deployed, and he didn't make the rest of the year.
That's a shame.
And that is the sacrifice that our people make.
Exactly.
So that's the Gold Star Family Monument Project. So as we continue in our book series,
we've got Brian Fleming, great friend of ours, great friend of the show. He was on the original Kilroy's conversation.
yes, he was. That's how I met him.
And awesome guy. Love Brian. In fact, I'm golfing with Brian next weekend. So we'll
Veterans have such tough lives.
Yeah, so we'll have a good time. We'll talk about that next weekend on the show. But yeah, we'll have Brian there. Great guy, great story, awesome stuff. But let's go back to kind of recapping this show. We're getting ready to wind down this show in a little bit. What a year 2020 was. But besides just that, in the military, we're deployed and away from our friends and family more often than we would care to. Do you got any special holiday stories or things that you did, experiences over the holidays during your service time?
Yeah, a couple of them. They're not as interesting as the story you're going to share here in just a second. I spent one New Year's Eve in Rick's Cafe in Hong Kong, not the one in Monaco. For those who don't know, I'm a major Casablanca fan, and Humphrey Bogart's club is called Rick's Cafe. So there was a Rick's Cafe, and there isn't actually a Rick's Cafe. It just was a movie creation. But there is a Rick's Cafe dedicated to Casablanca. So I was there one New Year's Eve in Hong Kong. I remember doing a Christmas dinner with the squadron at the QB Point O Club, which was one of the most magnificent settings in the South Pacific. It overlooks Subic Bay, looks out into the South China Sea, some of the prettiest sunsets in the absolute world there. But it's really weird being, it's Christmas, and of course I'm from Texas, so it's not that weird, but I mean, literally shorts and golf shirt weather.
Gotta love that.
I want you to share yours, because we've actually talked about all this other stuff so much.
That's okay.
We're starting to run out of time, but I wanted you to share, because you shared a story with us.
For me, my hands down, separate time away from my family, greatest holiday experience I ever had, besides just being with my troops. I was away during Christmas, deployed during Christmas and New Year's and all kinds of stuff with the troops in Iraq combat zones. But in 2006, I was stationed over the Sinai Peninsula. Myself and most of the commanders and leadership of our squadron, we climbed Mount Sinai on Christmas Eve and spent Christmas Eve on top of Mount Sinai. And let me explain, and people are like, okay. First of all, you get up there, you're climbing all day long. It's not Mount Everest height, but it's a pretty good clip up there. And you stay at the first level, which is called Elijah's Basin, which is really neat. Now, granted, we're all a bunch of Texans and all that, so cold weather is not really in our blood, all right? We don't like it very much. Well, it was nice weather, comfortable enough for us to climb during the day, but as we reached the top of the basin, it started to snow. And we were freezing. And, of course, all you've got is your whoopee gear. For those of y'all who don't know, whoopee gear is your poncho liner and stuff like that to keep you warm, and arguably the greatest piece of military equipment ever. I don't know a single veteran of any branch that won't agree that their poncho liner is their most valuable piece of military equipment.
I have two of them at the house.
Yes, same here. I mean, that hand down. I know veterans that say they want to be buried in their poncho liner, It's that great of piece of equipment. But anyway, so we're up there, shivering, and you get one of the local kids that don't know how these kids managed to beat us up there, but these young kids all of a sudden just show up out of nowhere and start cooking meals for you while you're up there. First of all,
Nice.
we're too cold to even move, so it's a good thing these kids. Yep, Elijah's
There we
Basin.
go.
So we get up there, and if you see on the wall there, we're actually that is not one of the basin tops. That's actually the top of Mount Sinai, which I'll share a story. We had one of the guys that was with us had done this climb previously to this, failed to mention about this little place. We're out in the open at Elijah's Basin, sleeping under the stars in the sun or in the snow, shivering all night long. But it was the coolest experience. And those of you who know me, I'm not a super, super religious guy, and I'll share something I didn't actually get to share earlier. That was the closest time I think I've ever felt towards God. Because I remember very specifically at 3:33 in the morning, and I still remember this day, I remember being woken up by a bright, bright light. No words were said. Just I remember and all of a sudden feeling warm. I kid you not. I know some of y'all thinking, yeah, right, whatever. I kid you not. I remember vividly looking at my watch. It was like all of a sudden, I mean, it was bone chilling all night. And at that time, there was a bright light on me. There was no other lights anywhere. I actually started feeling warm and stayed warm up until about 4:30 in the morning when we all got up to make the final ascent. That's when we got to the top of the basin. We see that. Now that is Elijah's Basin right there, where you're looking at in the screen. That's what we kept out in that open walls over there. Our buddy Justin didn't tell us, like, yeah, if you want to, we could have climbed an extra hour and a half longer and we've been in a nice warm tent on that. But he's like, I thought you guys wanted to experience, the road. And we're just all looking at him like, dude, you may not make it off this mountain. But anyways, we climbed up there. And we got to the top of the mountain. You're overlooking the clouds, and I'll have to send pictures for our next show. The most unbelievable sunrise I've ever seen. To watch the sun pop out through the clouds on Christmas morning on top of Mount Sinai with all your military buddies all around you. I will tell you right now, that bone chilling as far as like, wow, what a experience. What a memory that I will never, ever, ever forget. And especially that time when I felt warm between 3:33 in the morning to 4:30 when we started moving and getting all that. But as we made our descent down from Mount Sinai, at the base of Mount Sinai is a place called St. Catherines Cathedral, which is the second oldest cathedral in the world.
Wow.
All right. It's a Greek Orthodox cathedral. Well, the head of the cathedral when we were there is a gentleman by the name of Father Joseph. He just happened to have been from Dallas, Texas, born and raised here. I don't know whether he actually, he may have been part of one of the parishes. We didn't get to that part of the story, but, he was there when he saw there was a whole mess load of Texans in there. He invited us into St. Catherine's Cathedral. That was cool as it is. Because you got to understand one thing about St. Catherine's Cathedral. St. Catherine's Cathedral, the walls had only been breached twice in the history of that cathedral. There it is right there. It got breached once by the First Crusades and the second time by the Nazis. Only 2 times in history that those walls had ever been breached. So much so that when he was so impressed that we were Texans, he brought us into the special library. In fact, if you see that wood portion over there, that's where we took a picture right there in that corner of the cathedral. And if you look at the top of the mountain, there's a little cave opening very at the top over there. There is the head of the Greek Orthodox library that lives up in that cave. The priest from the cathedral.
Did you just call the Greek Orthodox a bunch of cavemen?
No.
That was kind of
He
rude.
lives up there. He literally lives up there. They feed him all that. Well, anyways, back to, what I was saying is when we were there, he was so impressed that we had a whole bunch of Texans in it. He brought us into the private library of St. Catherine's Cathedral.
Oh, very cool.
While inside the library, he showed us a sheepskin that had the handprint of Attila the Hun.
Wow.
That handprint was put outside the front door of St. Catherine's Cathedral to let the mongrel herd know that this piece of property was off limits and protected by the word of Attila the Hun.
And it's amazing to think that Attila the Hun, this Mongolian
Yep.
terrorist, or whatever you want to call him, conqueror, all the way to the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula.
Yep. He
Which is on, for those who don't know, it's on the east side of the Suez Canal.
And
Wow.
it
Cool.
was amazing getting a private tour of the library there, seeing some of the artifacts. But some of the things that we got to experience when we were over there is we got to see, depends on your point of view of biblical views, they have the burning bush. It is there.
Wow.
And it is, I mean, I'll have to send the pictures for the next show, but it is unbelievable experience. And I tell people, no matter what your religious take is, practices, beliefs, if you go on this journey, I will promise you it will be eye-opening. Not necessarily going to change your point of view, but just
Right.
wow.
And the one thing that I wanted before we jump
Yep.
into the last segment of the show, look at that. That is amazing.
I've got pictures inside there.
One of the things about being in the military, it gives us experiences. Andrew and I got to go to places we would never have seen. We get to do it in a manner that was very different. We got to serve. I remember one of the things that we did when we were in the Philippines is we helicoptered food into some of the more remote areas. We took doctors up there and dentists up there for them to work on the people, and these people were literally living, and their worlds hadn't really changed in centuries. So, hey, we want to jump over real fast as we're wrapping up the show. We talk about a veteran service organization at the end of every show, and Reads Across America is doing something special. For the next 8 days until the 15th of January, if you sponsor a $15 wreath, they're going to match. They're going to match that. So it's basically a 2-for-1. Kathy is one of our producers. She has been part of Reads Across America, and I am sorry. I meant to send over the picture of you and your husband. We had them out for Reads Across America.
Yeah, you got us out there, and that's by far one of my favorite experiences as a volunteer.
It's amazing.
I can't go. I had no idea this was going on. As a matter of fact, Chuck, we need to have you on our show next week.
Sure.
And give a plug for that.
Absolutely.
So we can push that information out there. That's huge. You've got to at least experience once in your lifetime.
It is moving. It is a tribute to our veterans that are interned at DFW Cemetery. This is an international project. We do this all over the world. We did not have a good year like most nonprofits in 2021. But if you will go to DFW Wreaths, so there's 2 W's in that, .com, you will have a direct link to sponsoring a $15 wreath. We'd really appreciate it. It is also DFW Wreaths, 2 W's on Facebook. Like the page. We have added 400 plus new people to our site since this program was announced. It's in its last week. This is a great opportunity to help fill up the cemetery. 2 years ago, we had it full. This year, we were at about 60%. So it's a big difference. It's very meaningful. We'll talk more about this as we get closer to that December 18th. Reese Day in 2021. We will encourage everybody to come out. It will be a bigger crowd. It is very moving. 3 years ago, I had the honor of attending one of the greatest celebrations of life I've ever been to when we interned Arlie Ermy at Arlington National Cemetery.
That's right. Not too many people live life like Arlie Ermy.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I hope somebody speaks as eloquently as Sergeant Major Overstreet and Bill Rogan did, as well as his daughter and his wife, in honor of his life and a life well lived. But that's what we want to do. We want to honor all of those veterans that are out there. It's $15. It's not a lot of money. We try not to make real big asks, but hey, for $15 you get 2 re-sponsored, so it's a bargain.
And what a event! This year, Chuck and I got to work together.
Yep.
That was. Let me tell you, we've always seen each other every year at that event. I got to say, this is probably one of the most enjoyable, if you will, because I got to work with you and your son, and
Yep.
I really, really enjoyed and embraced the experience. It was awesome.
We are up against the hour. I want to wish everybody a happy, prosperous, and joyous new year.
Same here.
Happy new decade from your friends at Kilroy's Conversation. Again, like us on Facebook. Put comments out there.
Don't forget to give us your favorite athletes.
Oh,
military athletes.
favorite veteran athletes. Any stories that you want to share? We're gonna build all that into a future show. We've got some great shows. We got a great lineup coming up for 2021. We're gonna do some fun things.
Some road trips.
We're gonna be
Coming to a city near you.
We got a lot to talk about with Carry the Load. Oh, baby, that's going to be fun. So it's going to be an exciting year. To Kathy and Charles, thank you for getting up this morning and helping us. Charles, really pleased to see you working with the Sippy Cup over there. And he hasn't destroyed a computer, folks, in at least a week.
So we're good. We're good. All right. Signing off. Hoorah, hoorah.
Hoorah!